Hey everyone, it's Giovanna, one of the health educators or program educators from Say San Diego, just so that you have reference to as to who's talking to you. For today's lesson, we are going to be covering lesson 11, media and peer pressure. Oops, sorry. There we go. So per usual, we are going to be starting with one of our animated videos, and then I will ask you a few questions afterwards. So let's see if this thing will load for us.
So, you seeing anybody these days?
Yeah, there's this new girl, Jasmine, I really like. We've been out on a couple dates.
And have you made a move?
Well, we're just taking it slow for now and getting to know each other. It's chill.
Come on, man. You like her, she likes you. What are you waiting for?
Well, I don't know, you guys. You two have more experience, and I just want to be careful not to mess things up.
Dude, if it's been more than 2 dates, she probably wants you. Try kissing her. Ladies love when men take the lead. And besides, a real man wouldn't waste his time and money on more dates without a kiss in return.
Okay, so in what you saw, just keeping it in mind, the title of the lesson is Media and Peer Pressure. So maybe thinking about that conversation that the three friends had and, what you took out of it. Was it, were they giving good advice for a healthy relationship? Were they talking about consent? Things like that. So keeping in mind, what you saw in the video and then the lesson title, which is Media and Peer Pressure. So today's learning objectives are going to be identify pressure from peers, media, or society to engage in risky behaviors, recognize that not all students participate in risky behaviors, demonstrate skills to refuse and avoid the pressures to engage in high-risk behaviors. So the evidence of achievement for today will be you participated in the lesson activities. And while I think we're all aware now that we are going to be doing online learning, we do have worksheets created for you all in the Google Classroom that will serve as your evidence of achievement. So after you're done watching the lesson, please feel free and go fill those out as well. So you completed the lesson worksheets. So along with the activities we have created into worksheets, you might have a few other worksheets to fill out for each lesson as well. And then you are committed to resisting peer and media pressures. So what are the sources of pressure in your life? So think about the different places in your life where you feel pressure. It can be something as extreme as, having to pass a big test that counts for half of your grade. That could be something that's adding pressure to your life. It could be, your friends saying you have to act a certain way, or you have to prove yourself in order to be accepted, things like that. So based off of, those sources of pressure, what messages do you receive from those pressures? I went over a few of them, a few places you could feel that pressure, but what messages do you receive? Is it for, acceptance? Is it because you want to fit in? What are the different messages that you could be receiving in your life from those pressures? So when is it okay to take someone's advice? So it can be, for example, if the person is more knowledgeable and responsible than yourself, so maybe somebody who's older, who's a little wiser, that would be a good idea to take their advice if they're trying to, steer you in the right direction. If somebody is offering you advice that keeps you healthy, definitely is advice you might want to take, right? They're keeping your best interest at heart if they're trying to keep you healthy. No harm to yourself or anyone else will occur. So similar as keeps you healthy, somebody who's making sure that you aren't being hurt is maybe somebody worth listening to as well. It doesn't cost too much. So if somebody's, excuse me, if somebody's offering you advice and, you know, whatever their advice is, you know, is something that may cost money, but it's not too much to go out of your way to spend. For example, you know, a few bucks on some condoms. We talked about condoms in the previous lessons. Things like that, or going to a clinic to get condoms for free, for using that same example. Things like that. Oh, and you are sure it is legal. So if somebody is offering you advice, try to steer you in the right direction. It's legal. You're not going to get in any legal trouble. Again, advice worth listening to. And you know your parents would approve. So if somebody's offering you advice and then you go and have that conversation with your parents and you know your parents would approve of the advice given, then that could be somebody who you could listen to. When is it not okay to give into peer pressure? So a lot of the times, you know, with social media and different accesses that we have to the outside world, we get these pressures of what we're supposed to look like, what we're supposed to be, where we're supposed to be heading for our future, things like that. And there's different places where it's not okay to give into peer pressure. If you all can think of a few to yourselves right now, that's great. I'm gonna put a few up here for you all. For example, the first one, if someone is trying to benefit from you, like selling you something, for example, drugs, or involving you in sex trafficking, those are times you would not want to give in to peer pressure, right? It's something that would put you in harm's way. If it's dangerous, again, it's putting you in harm's way, or putting somebody else in harm's way as well. You do not want to be giving into peer pressure as well in those situations. If it is illegal, again, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you gave into peer pressure and now you know, you've done something illegal and you might have to go to jail. Also, making sure that you are not giving into peer pressure if you could potentially have an unplanned pregnancy or get infected with an STI. And if y'all remember, an STI stands for sexually transmitted infection. So again, if anything, when we're talking about not giving into peer pressure, it's making sure that you are taking care of yourself, your health, and you are putting your well-being first. And that's how you, you know, can think about things in terms of when it's not okay to give into peer pressure if you're putting yourself in any of these situations listed. So let's go into talking about how advertisers use sex to sell their products. So what do you all think is the underlying message with this? For example, in this picture, the product is most likely the hamburger that the girl's eating. But how is she dressed, right? She's dressed with it's either a crop top or like a bralette type shirt, you know, exposed a little bit more. Again, trying to imply that, you know, if you're dressed sexier, you know, people are more likely to want to buy. In this case, it's the burger, right? So the underlying message, have sex, drink. Everyone is doing it. You also have to do it, right? If everybody's doing it, you should be doing it too. Okay. So let's talk about how we learn how to analyze an advertisement. Okay. So what product is being advertised? Again, in the previous picture, let's go back here. What is being advertised is the burger, right? So what product is being advertised in whichever, you know, commercial or magazine you're looking at. What information is provided about the product? Describe the people and the images. What does this picture suggest? What is the advertiser trying to get you to do? Adults, a lot of the time, seem very concerned that teens not engage in high-risk sex or drug-related behaviors but it is adult media that pushes these very behaviors onto teens. So, kind of something to think about. So what is assertive communication? So we've talked about up to this point the ways media pressures, youth or people in general to view a certain product, a certain item. And we talked about, when it's okay to take somebody's advice and when it's not okay to take somebody's advice. But let's talk about assertive communication. So how do we relay that message across of what we want and what we do not want, okay? So the first thing is first, communicate clearly, right? Making sure that whatever you are trying to say, you get from point A to point B, and that way you can have clear communication so there's no misunderstandings. Know your limits. If, say, you want to hold somebody's hand and that's all you're cool with, that's your limit, knowing that that's your limit, and you're not going to want to make out just because your partner keeps insisting. So knowing your limits, and again, going back to that, communicate clearly. If you know your limits and you can communicate clearly to your partner and say, hey, I'm cool with this, not cool with this, you're taking steps towards assertive communication. Making eye contact, right? That way you tell your partner, tell whoever you're talking to, that is your decision and you're not backing down from whatever your decision or your limits are. State your limits and expectations. So again, going back to the example of if you're with your partner, your relationship with somebody, you are going to communicate clearly with your partner what your limits are. You are going to tell them that, and you are going to also, have that communication as to what your expectations are of the relationship. And again, that way you're on the same boat with your partner and there's no miscommunication. Negotiate an alternative. So for example, if you are all, watching a movie and your partner wants to, maybe take it to a step where you're not okay with, maybe they want to start taking your clothes off and you're not okay with that. Again, communicate clearly with your partner, telling them, hey, this is not what I want. How about we just make out for now? Again, you're negotiating an alternative, but you are not completely cutting off the like that contact with your partner or the communication. You're letting them know, like, I like you, but I'm not ready for that. Let's just do this instead. Okay, so we are going to, or you all will be going to be filling out a worksheet on how you would respond. So with this worksheet, you have two separate sample peer pressure situations. So you have 1 and 2, they're two separate worksheets. You can find them on Google Classrooms. And the first one is about being intimate with a partner. And the second worksheet is about substance use. So please fill out those questions as honestly as you can. If you were to be faced with somebody actually giving you those excuses, how would you respond? Because you never know, today it could be just something you read on a worksheet, and maybe, the next day, or, in the future sometime, it could be a partner actually giving you these responses or excuses. So you want to make sure that you are prepared with an answer if your partner were to ever give you, or if somebody were to ever offer you substances. So again, just keep in mind, in your own words, write responses to each worksheet. And if you feel comfortable enough, if you're in a space where you can maybe say, your responses out loud, practice saying them firmly and assertively. I'm sure many of you have heard practice makes perfect. In these situations, it applies as well, because you might be practicing saying it to yourself, but like I mentioned a little bit ago, you never know if you might actually have to use your responses in the future. And that way, if you have practiced it, it doesn't seem like such a scary thought to have to say it to somebody. Okay? So what we are going to do now is we are going to watch the ending of the short film from earlier. And then after, we will have a conversation. I will have a conversation with you all about how everything played out. All right. So again, hopefully this video cooperates and then we can get it going. Oh, sorry about that. Keep doing that. There we go. All right.
A real man wouldn't waste his time and money on more dates without a kiss in return.
Maybe the guys are right. I'm a man. I have to be brave and just kiss her. She must want it if she invited me over. I just have to do it.
Whoa, back off. Where did that come from?
I like you, Jasmine. I thought you wanted me to make the first move, being the man and all, but maybe I read that wrong and messed up. Wow, I'm sorry. I should probably get going.
Oh, look, Johnny, I like you.
You do?
Yeah, I do. But you can't just do things like that to women.
My friend said that, a guy usually makes the first move if we're both feeling it.
Who cares what your friend said? I deserve respect. And if you respected me, you'd ask if you could kiss me.
I do respect you. I just got confused after hearing the guys talk about being a real man. And then you invited me over. I thought that's what you wanted.
A real man communicates with the woman he's interested in. And just because a woman is friendly, it does not mean she wants to hook up.
I know, and really hear you. Because real talk, that's how my family raised me.
This whole idea that women want men to just take them drives me crazy.
Yeah, I do understand. And I'm really sorry.
So, wanna try again?
Really? I mean, yes. Can I kiss you?
Yes, of course. Since you asked so nicely.
Okay, so the second half of the story played out a little different than the first half, right? So the first half, the friends were very encouraging about, making the first move, that's what, quote unquote, girls like. But from what we learned in the second half, not everybody likes that, right? People appreciate, again, communication and consent, and having that, again, communication with whoever you're with, and checking in to see if, hey, if I kiss you, is that cool? If I hold your hand, is that cool? Just checking in and making sure that you're not giving in to pressure or influences you might see online, different social media platforms, making sure that you, first and foremost, as I believe Jasmine was the character's name, as she mentioned, people deserve respect. So making sure you're not giving into the pressure of what you see, your friends telling you what you see on the social media, and showing people respect and checking in with them to make sure that whatever you choose to engage in is cool for both of you and respects both people's limits. All right. So we went over this. So time for a quiz. On Google Classrooms, you all will actually have your quiz on there. You can respond true or false on each question. And then again, that's how you will get your points for making your quiz or for taking your quiz. So I know you will be seeing the answers here. Hopefully you forget those, but if not, feel free to check back in, and then that way you know that you're getting the correct answers. So what was the most interesting or important thing you learned in today's lesson? So I believe this is another worksheet that we have created for you, again, just so that we can touch bases with you all, see what you learned, if you found anything interesting, things like that, and then that way we can take note for ourselves as well. And then maybe having this be your question of the day. How confident are you that you can resist peer and media pressures? We're not saying it's the easiest thing to avoid. I understand that you see it everywhere, but thinking to yourself, if someone were to pressure me, could I resist peer pressure? And the answer is no. Maybe, thinking of a few of your responses from the worksheets that you are going to do, and thinking how you can implement that in your daily lives. Okay. Oops. Sorry, everybody. There we go. All right. So I believe, yep, that was our last talking point for today. As I mentioned, you do have everything or all the activities on Google Classrooms. Just feel free to look everything up on there under lesson 11. And then that way, Miss Alondra and I can keep track of who's doing what activities, and you can also get credit for completing the curriculum. So I hope everybody has an awesome day. I hope you're all staying safe, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone.